So now Thanksgiving is over, but I'd like to explain to you about the very first Thanksgiving. It was in the year 1621, a long time ago, and it took place in Plymouth, Massachusetts. However, other people disagree that that's actually where the first Thanksgiving took place. Some people believe that it happened in Virginia. They celebrated the first Thanksgiving there. And I don't really know which, but, we follow the traditional story of the first Thanksgiving that happened in Plymouth, Massachusetts. For those of you who know sign language, there are different signs for Thanksgiving. So for the first time Thanksgiving was set up, or established, there were settlers who arrived on a boat. And when they got to Plymouth, Massachusetts, and the boat stopped, they didn't disembark because a lot of people were very sick. And it was cold outside as well. And so they stayed on the boat where it was warmer. Many people were sick, though, and they had diseases like scurvy and some other things, and 75% of those people died. 25%, they survived. They were left on the boat, but you have to understand that those 25% still were sick and weak. And some of them actually had panic. If you can imagine, the boat was small and cramped, and there were many people there, and the beds were lined up in a row. People started to feel trapped and became panicked. And of course, a long time ago, when, 1621, we didn't have Prozac or Valium, so unfortunately, these people just had to suffer through it. Some people couldn't deal with it, though, and ended up jumping overboard and drowning. Really quite sad. So, like I said, when that boat arrived, it was very, very cold. And then so they waited until about March when it had warmed up. And that is when they disembarked and went on to land, and they saw that there were Indians there. However, the Indians didn't speak any English, but they went and they got another Indian who did speak English, and his name was Squanter. And he was very good at speaking English, and so he asked the settlers if he could help them, teach them how to grow food and help them. He would show them what foods were okay to eat and which were poisonous. So in doing so, the settlers and the Pilgrims all became friends, and they decided that they would have a day to give thanks. And nowadays we give thanks to God and friends and family and food that we have to eat and safe place to sleep. So the Pilgrims decided to celebrate that with the Indians. I don't know the exact date. Some people say it was November, others say December. I'm not really sure, but that first Thanksgiving lasted for 3 days. They feasted that long. So the settlers brought muffins to the feast. And the reason for that is because they had plenty of corn. They grew it and harvested it, and made muffins that they brought to the feast. They also, were able to. They had learned how to make flour, so they added that to the corn muffins. The Indians, on the other hand, brought deer, fish, poultry, things that they were able to get when they were hunting. So there was a ton of food, and these people feasted, and enjoyed each other for 3 days straight. And you know, a side point I wanted to make is that many people don't know that, but when you think about the first Thanksgiving, a lot of us have this picture in our head of the Indians and the Pilgrims all sitting around eating, which actually is not the case. But actually, they all stood because Squancher knew that that prolonged sitting could have ill effects on people. Nowadays, we understand that he was actually right, because if you sit too much, it can cause cancer. And that's the reason why many people, when they're at work, are not allowed to sit all day. Their bosses make them stand. I think in order to avoid lawsuits when they're affected by cancer. Maybe Squancher was on to something back then. So nowadays, after we celebrate Thanksgiving, the following day is Black Friday. And this Black Friday, there were a lot of awful incidents that happened, specifically at Walmart. There were shootings, there were fights, arguments. There was one shopper at Walmart in the town of San Pedro, California. This woman had gone into Walmart, and she saw that they had Kinect game boxes, and she went to go buy one, but all these people started rushing in and trying to grab them. So she pulled out her pepper spray and started spraying the other shoppers. So obviously their eyes were very hurt, and the police came and they arrested her, took her to jail. And that is just one of many incidences that happened on this Black Friday. Personally, I don't like to go shopping on Black Friday, but I'm always curious to see the deals. And it's funny because you see people outside, camping out overnight to be the first ones in the store to get these deals. Not me. I stay home. I don't want to deal with the crowds and the traffic. I'm going to stay home. That is not for me. What did you do this Thanksgiving?